You're making one right decision today. You're listening to Handcuffs and Sage.
Three badass moms bringing you all the true crime and paranormal your heart desires.
I'm Red.
I'm Timo.
I'm Dre. And don't let your kids listen. Seriously, just don't.
Welcome back to Handcuffs and Sage.
Hi, this is Red.
Hey, this is Timo.
And this is Dre.
And we're back. Yay!
Yay! I say my yay like half-heartedly because I think we are experiencing a lot in the world right now. So I want to keep it a little more serious, right? So this comes out on Tuesday. But for us, over the weekend, we're experiencing a lot here in Los Angeles, but it's not just happening in Los Angeles. We're seeing reports of riots, Detroit, Minneapolis, Dallas, things like that coming out. And so I think it's just a really sad time. I, have been following the news. I'm sure you guys have, the death of George Floyd is just awful. It's heartbreaking what happened. I'm all for peaceful protesting, of course. Things need to change. But seeing the rioting and the looting and all that was just, it's just out of control. We have a lot of friends that are police officers, a lot of family members that are police officers, and there are a lot of good police officers, and they hate those bad cops. They give them a bad name, and they're out there having to they're out there having to deal with all these looters and everything going on. And I just want everyone to be safe. I don't want anything else to happen.
I mean, it's the Rodney King thing all over again. I think I heard too that they're like saying it's worse than the whole Rodney King, because it's just not, it's like all over the place. And when I turned on the TV yesterday, I had no clue what was going on. I was really tired and I was taking naps all day. And then I turned on the TV and I'm like, it's in Los Angeles. What the fuck is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yes, It's all over the country right now. And even George Floyd's parents came out and said, we don't want this, right? Don't do this. Mm-hmm. This was such a tragedy, and we really had a spotlight on it, and people were really talking about it. And then things got out of hand, and there was, we live in Los Angeles, and they're just breaking into stores and just stealing things, and it's just out of control right now. It really is. So hopefully that comes to an end soon. I don't know if that's going to continue today. Hopefully not.
Well, the National Guard is here. And I don't know if you guys saw a video, and I'm not even sure what state it's in, but these people were filming the National Guard like marching through their neighborhood.
Oh, really?
And they're screaming, get in your house, get in your house. And you could tell they're girls. I mean, not like teenagers, but like young women. And they're standing there on the porch and they're still videotaping. And the guy's screaming, get in your house, get in your house. And they're not moving. So somebody else, it must be like their, hey, Velvet, what's up, girl? I don't know if it was like they're like, higher up or whatever, but he's like, light them up. And all of a sudden they start aiming at the porch and just start shooting the rubber bullets at the house. Like, no, like, just like, well, okay, you're not going to listen. Here we go. Bum, 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 bum.
Oh, no.
And then you see like their cell phones are like, taping like the ground, and you can tell like they're running and they're like, get in, get in, get in, get in. And they close the door. And then one of them looks at, she's like, ow, ow. And they're like, did you get hit? And she's like, yeah. And she was like brushing off like her hip area. She's like, I'm okay. But it's just like, they're not fucking around, dude.
No. If they tell you to go inside, go inside.
I know. Like, what do you think?
Hey.
Dang. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It sucks because it actually speaks a lot to the way that kids nowadays don't have any regard for for adults and stuff. So that really sucks. Or authority figures, period.
There seems to be a decline in just basic respect for each other.
Right.
What has happened?
Yeah.
We see people misbehaving all the time, and it's just embarrassing to me. Pull it together. This past year, I was mentioning this to my hubby. If we talk about, just where we live here in Santa Clarita, what we've been through, it hasn't even been a year, right?
No,
we had
right.
the earthquakes, we had
Fires.
fires, we had the school shooting, you know, Kobe and others died in this terrible helicopter crash. We have a global pandemic. People have lost their jobs. We're in quarantine. Now we have George Floyd and the riots, and it's just, there's just no moment of just things are looking up, right? It just seems like one after the other. It's just awful time for so many people. I really hope that this all comes to an end soon. I really do. We need things to get better.
Absolutely.
And we were so excited for 2020, y'all. We were like, it's going to be such a great year.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah, it turns out it's cursed, and murder hornets are also on the table. So
yeah,
anything's possible at this
Jesus
point.
Christ.
It's just really sad. All right, y'all. Dre, how are you doing? Besides the baby driving you nuts.
He doesn't let me sleep. It's crazy. I think there's like something like this 18-month sleep regression or some crap going on. So yeah, we're up all night, and last night I went to sleep on the pool out with Aurora because she likes to have slumber parties. So we did that, and then I was like, please go to bed, please go to bed. Nah, I was up till 3 in the morning.
No.
And then at like 7:30 in the morning, he like wakes up, sits right up, and looks at me and starts giggling and laughing like, "Hey mom, what's up? It's party time. I'm gonna go to bed."
You're like, I am writing this down. We're gonna discuss when you're 16 what you did to me last night. I will not forget.
When he's 16 and trying to get some sleep, I'm gonna go knock on the door at like 6 in the morning.
That's right.
Pull one of those Sunday morning, get up, it's time for school. Yeah. Let's go.
How do you like it? How do you like it? Real fun.
16 years in the making.
Swear. Please do that.
I don't know how you do it, girl. I don't know how you do it.
Either.
I really don't. You got these little kids. Little kids are so hard. It's just all day, all the time hard. So my heart is always with you, girl.
Thanks.
Yeah. I think kids, you know, of course, have their difficulties at every age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember when my kids were little, and I think I said this to my mother-in-law, like, when does it get easier? Like, when does it get better? And she said, it just changes. There's just new issues and new problems. That's all it is. But when you have little kids, they're not sleeping and all of that, it makes it so much harder to deal with everything.
Well, they can't go to the bathroom themselves. They can't feed themselves. They can't bathe themselves. When my boys were old enough where I could just be like, okay, go take a shower. I just sat there with my glass of wine. I was like, oh, yes, this is heaven. Oh, that was the best day ever.
Yep.
Sure is.
It's those little things.
And that's the thing, though, guys, is I know what that's like because I have a 15, almost 16.
That's why you're insane.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah. Who decides to do it all fucking over again, you weirdo?
I am. He's like, here, I'll do it. I'll have 5 more.
Better you than me.
Nope, we're done. Done.
Done.
I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah.
Oh, girl. Hang in there. All right. So,
try.
do we want to start with true crime?
Yeah, go for it.
My notes are a mess.
Oh, good.
Have fun with that.
Thanks.
Well, this is the story, and I'm sure y'all have heard of it, because if you haven't, I'm going to lose my mind. It's the Betty Broderick story.
I got
you. Yes.
Let
me remind you.
I don't know it by name, but I probably will know it by the story.
Meredith Baxter Burney played her in a TV movie.
Okay.
And it's about the wife and the husband get the divorce and she loses her mind and then kills them.
Dude, I don't even know. I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't
get
know.
into it.
Well, then
All right.
buckle up, bitch.
I can totally see Meredith Baxter Burney being all crazy in my head. So, you know, I
for
probably know.
sure,
Yeah.
for
You
sure.
probably
Like,
have
there's
seen it,
just
you
no
just
way.
don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right, cool.
Everyone knows this story. Oh, it's so crazy.
Excellent.
Okay. So Betty Fishuglia was a college freshman in 1965, and she went to a bar with a friend after a USC Notre Dame game. And back then, Betty was gorgeous. Like, she would do modeling and things like this. But she was a very good Catholic girl. And really, she said that all she wanted in life was to be a good mother and wife. Okay, good Catholic girl. So she's at this bar after this really big game, and there she met Dan. And he was sitting next to her, and so cool as a cucumber, he's writing his name on a napkin, and he passes it over to her, right? And on the napkin, it says his name, Daniel T. Broderick III, MDA, which stood for Medical Doctor Almost, right? So Dan had just got accepted into Cornell, right? So he's like, hey, girl, hey, I'm going to be a doctor, right? You're into it, right?
Yeah.
So that was his game.
Ew.
Yes. So 4 years later, they were married on April 12th, 1969. 9 months later, 9 months, right, from the honeymoon, they had their first baby. Okay. Now,
That happened to my mom.
did it?
Yes.
I just think that's so crazy. And something to note here is Betty was a virgin. She lost her virginity.
Want to hear something crazy?
What?
My mom's name is Betty, and she was a virgin when she got married.
Oh my God, this is her story that I'm telling right now. Hi, Betty.
Oh my God. You know the crazy thing though? Sidebar, sorry. The doctor told my mom, you're probably gonna have a premature baby. And then she flipped out because her mom would have probably disowned her. Like, this is like, you know, the 1970s, very Catholic, very strict, you know, family. And so when the doctor said, you know, I think it's going to be premature, my mom was like, no, it can't. It cannot. She can't come early because my mom will like totally disown me or something. And my sister was born 9 months and 2 days after their honeymoon.
Good job. She did it.
She held it together.
No drama, honey. So nuts. So, I mean, so Betty was a good Catholic girl. She waited until her wedding night to have sex. Dan was also brought up in a very strict Catholic home. He was actually the oldest of 9 kids, right? And some said like they were raised like the Kennedy boys, right? They kind of like
see that.
Acted kind of wild, but they were expected to make something of themselves, right?
Right. Well, if you're a third, obviously, you know.
A third. I could never be with a third, just saying, but whatever. So the Brodericks ended up having 4 kids, so 2 girls and 2 boys. Dan, they said, you know, Dan was a very bright, very hardworking guy. Okay. So, Dan, after, you know, going to medical school, right, he decided, I changed my mind. I'm going to go to Harvard Law. I want to be a lawyer instead. What?
Dang.
Now, back in the day, this really needs to be noted. This is a big part of the story that I think a lot of people forget. That Dan going to school, right, and Betty being at home with these itty bitty kids, they were poor. They did not have money. They lived in like really shady apartments. She would babysit other kids. She would sell Tupperware. This was back in the day. Also, I thought of this on my own. They did not have regular diapers. They had cloth diapers, right? So she was doing it all to put him through school. Okay. She really worked hard. She got like a little teaching job there for a bit. So she was always working and taking care of the kids to put them through school. Okay. So in 1973, he actually got like this huge job at this very prestigious law firm, Gray Kelly in San Diego. And then 5 years after that, you know, with Betty's urging, of course, I could just see her doing this. Dan started his own practice, and he specialized in medical malpractice. And there was big money in medical malpractice, right? So Dan's nickname for Betty was Betts. He called her Betts, which was kind of cute. But he had a nickname for himself, and it was Count de Money, as in Count de Money, right? So after this like really like struggle period with them, right? They had no money. He got through school. He finally got this job. Like all of a sudden things got really good for them, right? Things really changed for them. Dan got a nose job. He got tailored suits. And then finally it got to the point where Betty could stop working. She had worked that entire time and had kids, and really that's just a shout out. Like that is not easy to do, right? But then Betty really got her dream. She became a full-time mom, and people said she was a super mom, right? Like the kids loved her, the kids' friends loved her, right? People really adored her. But the Brodericks did have a difficult marriage. They had gone to a marriage retreat like earlier on, and like part of the retreat, like you had to write down like, I'll be happy when this happens kind of a thing, I guess. And Dan wrote down, and I think this is very interesting, is that he would be happy when he was rich, right? So that seemed to be important. And Betty wrote down that she would be happy when they could get along. Okay. So they were obviously, yes, yeah, that was really sad. So it just kind of shows like they had been through a lot. Real young couple, babies, you know, all this schooling, and now a new job. But their marriage, you know, had its difficulties. Okay. So something also that is just, you know, heartbreaking is that after the after the first child, Betty had another child, but the child died shortly after birth. So then you add on the stress of the loss of a child, right? And then she had 2 miscarriages, right? So they went through a lot. These were 2 Catholic people having, you know, this perfect Catholic marriage, you know, having a lot of kids was important to them. And, you know, she had miscarriages and then the loss of this child, but they did end up having 4 kids. So 2 girls, 2 boys. Dan would say that he was like socializing a lot because that was a part of his business, right? To like meet people and, you know, become friends with certain people. But the way Betty put it is that he partied a lot, right? And then that caused a distance in their relationship. They would argue violently at times. At one time, Betty threw a bottle of ketchup at Dan. I know my son would be horrified with that thought, because his number one food is ketchup. Like ketchup is life.
But back then it wasn't the squeezed plastic bottle. It was like the full on like glass.
It was the serious, I'm not fucking around.
Oh yeah, that's gonna
bottle,
hurt if it hits you. Yeah.
Right. And then at one point, Dan threw an empty aquarium off their second story of their house. Right. So it was kind of crazy. Right. But really at that point she had stopped working. Dan was making a lot more money, of course, and she did need him for money, right? Right. And to Betty, she said that, you know, with the Catholic religion, there is no divorce. You don't get divorced, right? That's just not happening. So in 1983, Dan hired a beautiful 22-year-old named Linda Polkina. I wonder what's going to happen
Huh.
with the 22-year-old.
He hired her for what? Like a secretary?
Something at the firm. She was not the secretary.
Oh, okay.
She worked there. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Betty suspected that there might be some cheating going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on November 22nd, 1983, Betty went to Dan's office. She had champagne. She had like a dozen red roses. She was going to surprise him for his birthday. I believe, yes, his 39th birthday, right? So she was trying to do something really nice. So she walks into his office and she looks around and she sees birthday decorations everywhere. There was an empty bottle of wine and 2 empty glasses, right? And a chocolate cake that people had been eating. So she says to the secretary, "Oh, where's my husband?" And she says, "Oh, Dan and Linda went to lunch." And Betty was like, "Oh, hell no." And she sat in that office and she waited for Dan, and Dan did not come back to the office.
Oh, Dan.
So I want us all to put ourselves in Betty's shoes right now. What would you do, right? How pissed would you be? So Betty got in her car. She drove home pissed as fuck. We all know she was pissed. She got home. She grabbed all those clothes and she lit them on fire.
Oh, that was
all
quick.
his like custom suits and shit.
Boom.
Oh, damn.
And what's really sad about this too is that you hear that the kids see and hear everything. They hear all the fighting. They were there when she lit the clothes on fire, right? They're just a hot mess in front of the kids. It's really sad. It really is. So Betty had been suspicious of Linda and Dan. She was always telling Dan, you know, "I know you're cheating on me." And he would always say, "Absolutely not. I'm not going to." And at one point, Betty told Dan, "You know, you better get rid of that little bitch or get out of my house," right? So Betty wasn't having it, but he always denied any affair. Okay. Betty would say that Dan would call her names. He would call her old, fat, boring, and stupid, which that sucks. I don't know if he actually did those things. But I think Betty was feeling replaced by a newer model, right? I think that would not be a good feeling. She felt like Dan was putting a methodical campaign together to drive her insane. Like she thought Dan was doing every little thing on purpose to make her just lose it. Okay. So Dan moved out in February of 1985. And Betty was super effing pissed about it. And at one point she thought, "I'm going to have Dan understand how hard it is to take care of all these kids, right? I'm going to get him to respect me." And she basically shoved her kids out of her car door and threw their clothes out, left them, all 4 kids, on his doorstep and said, "Here, you take the kids. You see how easy it is, right?"
Oh my God.
And they said that the kids were standing there crying.
Aww.
Yeah. So Dan was like, "I love my kids. I'm glad they're here." He just hired babysitters. He hired babysitters to take care of the kids. And then he kind of had like a leg up on her, like, "Hey, you left your kids. Now I have the kids," right? She decided, "Oh, I changed my mind. I want my kids back." And he said, "No," right? Not going to happen. So on September 23rd, after 16 years of marriage, Dan files for divorce. 1 month later, he tells Betty, "Oh, by the way, you were right. I was always with Linda." Just for your information.
Oh my God.
And we've fallen in love, right?
Oh God.
So there was a whole situation where Dan wanted to sell the family home. Now, it seems like Betty does this a lot. She kind of like flip-flops and makes things difficult and kind of goes crazy over everything. And she said she would sell the home, but then the price wasn't right. And then she wasn't going to sell the home. And finally, he did some kind of court order where he could sell it without her consent.
Oh.
And the day she found out her house had been sold, right, without her consent, she lost her shit.
Oh, shit.
She lost her shit. She drove up to his new house. She lined up her car and she drove her Chevy Suburban into his front door.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh. And then they started fighting each other, right?
Like fist fighting?
She hits him. He takes her down and he calls 911. And of course, the kids are there. She drove a car into a house where her children were.
Oh my
which
God.
blows my mind, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So Dan calls the police and Betty was taken away, I kid you not, in a straitjacket.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep.
Straight up in a straitjacket.
Yep.
And she spent 3 days in a mental institution. Now, I want to say here that there have been people who say that Betty Broderick has borderline personality disorder.
Really?
Okay?
Oh.
Right. And that it's very complex, right? It's a very difficult thing to deal with. They never think anything is wrong. They never do anything wrong. You can't have like a normal relationship with someone who has this, right?
Uh-huh.
And a lot of the things that she does makes me think, oh yeah, she definitely has borderline personality disorder. Just pure craziness, right? She just can't stop herself from doing things.
Mm.
So Betty had a serious fucking issue with leaving voice messages on their answering machine. And they played these later on, and you can hear them and everything she's saying. It's so nasty. And she would leave them just one after the other for Dan and the kids to hear. Just like she would leave a message like, hey, fuckhead, what are you doing? Come get these kids. I'm not ready to watch them, asshole. And then would hang up.
No.
Yes, shit like that. Just out of control. And she would do it constantly. There was a time that she would go to his home and she smeared a Boston cream pie all over his room. Right. There was a time she took black spray paint and sprayed his walls.
Oh
right.
My gosh.
She is out of fucking control. So she went from this like socialite, they, were basically millionaires living this perfect life and people thought that they were perfect, to going through this insane divorce that the whole community knew about, right? Everyone was talking about this Broderick divorce. It was just out of control. So July 1986, the divorce was final and Dan got sole custody.
Wow.
Yes.
Back then, that was crazy.
Yes.
The mom got everything back in the day. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Mom got all this shit. That's just not the way it was. A year before, a no-fault divorce law had gone into effect. And she really got screwed in a lot of ways. But she said that because he was a lawyer, he kind of had like everyone in his pocket. Like she wasn't going to get anything for anything. And he was the president of the San Diego bar at the time too. So he had some pull. Mm-hmm. So Dan did get custody. So Dan gave her money every month, right? And he would give her, I think it was $16,000 a month, right?
Wow, in the 70s? Damn, or the 80s? Damn.
Right.
That's a lot of money, baby.
But put in perspective, he was bringing home $144,000 a month and she had got him through school. She had done raised his babies.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
He done
Yep.
cheated on her with a 22-year-old. Okay.
mhm.
And she was getting $16,000 a month. And she just really felt like, what the fuck is this kind of a thing? And he got
Right.
the kids, right? I don't know. She was
Right.
just losing her mind.
Yeah.
But something he did, and I have never heard of this being legal before, that he would fine her every time she left a nasty voice message. If she showed up at the house, he would fine her for these things, right?
Wow.
And and
Is that part of the
month,
court order?
that's what I'm saying. I don't know how he got away with this, but 1 month he fined her so much that she was in debt to him for $1,300.
Oh my
What?
God.
After her $16,000. Wow. So
With
he
all
found
the
ways.
fines.
Oh, honey, it's gonna cost you.
Right. And they were saying that it was like this crazy just chaos, because like the more she would lose it, right, the more Dan would kind of like retreat. He would not talk to her about anything. He just would not engage with her. He acted very much like a lawyer, right? Just not going to engage with you, which would make her even more mad, right? It was just this terrible, vicious cycle. And it was always legal. So every time she did anything, she would get a letter from his lawyer about something, right? And then she would get mad. It was just like this never ending thing. It was really, really sad. And then you think the kids are going through all of this and hearing all of it. It was really sad. So this was just insanity. The divorce negotiations they went through is just insane, and it dragged on for 2 years.
Wow.
Which is nuts, right? So Betty ended up representing herself, and she claimed she couldn't find a qualified lawyer. So after the negotiations, after everything is settled, she ends up with $26,606, right? So that's like a lump sum that she got after like the house and everything. But they said that she had debt and bad investments that they had to pay off. So that's what she was left with, was $26,000 from this millionaire like marriage.
That sucks.
Yeah. And
wow.
Old girl lost her mind. Okay. Yeah. She lost her shit. And what did she do? She went and she bought a .38 revolver, Smith & Wesson. She is about done. Okay. So at the time, Betty had a friend, Diane Black, and she said that, you know, Betty was depressed. She was really reclusive. She cried a lot. She complained a lot, and she gained 60 pounds. Like she, like, went from this just absolutely gorgeous woman and just became a shell of herself, right?
Wow.
And she would tell the kids, I didn't get a divorce. Your father got a divorce. I'm still married.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So she be crazy in a lot of ways. So November 4th, Betty couldn't sleep. She had real issues with sleeping. And she kind of was like going through paperwork, and there in the mail, she finds a letter again from Dan's lawyer about stopping calls and messages, right? She just can't stop this. She's like addicted to it. And she kind of went into like this blind fury of rage. She got in her car. She drove to Dan's house. She took her daughter's keys and went in through the back, went through the kitchen, up the stairs, into the bedroom, and she shot 5 times. She killed Dan Broderick and his new wife of 7 months, Linda. Yep. So on October 22nd, 1990 is when the trial starts for their deaths. They did courtroom episodes. So you know how like there were certain trials we could watch on TV kind of starting out before OJ. This was one of them. Ooh. And this is a trial where you could watch it, and the courtroom was packed every day, right? Just to kind of see the insanity of all of it, right? Mm-hmm. They said that before the trial, when Betty was talking to friends, she just almost seemed animated. So she wasn't like in this depressed state anymore. She was like almost in a gleeful state. But she talked about Dan in the present tense, like he wasn't dead. Like she just couldn't grasp reality. And a lot of people, again, mention this, you know, throughout the story, is that she definitely was suffering from mental illness. She really was disconnected from what was actually happening.
Mm-hmm. Right. Wow.
So she would write letters all the time, like before her trial, letters to her kids. She would talk to reporters. She would answer letters from anyone who sent them to her. So I think she was trying to make it seem like to a lot of people that in these letters that she was a victim, right? That Dan did all these horrible things and she was a victim, to gain sympathy, right? Mm-hmm. But they were saying that Betty was very, very good at manipulating people, right? And that is definitely a trait of someone with borderline personality disorder. They're very good at manipulating. And the prosecutor in the trial is Carrie Wells. And I think she did a great job. She doesn't really seem to mess around. And she played tapes in the trial just constantly of these nasty messages that she would leave. And then one of them was just heartbreak. It just broke my heart. It was like a 30-minute phone call that 11-year-old son, and she was saying to her son, well, you didn't know he was fucking his secretary, that cunt, for 2 years, like shit like that.
Oh no. Ugh.
And this little boy is just begging his mom to stop. Just begging her, please stop fighting. Please stop leaving these messages. Please stop using the bad words. He's just, it's heartbreaking. It really just kills you. So her defense lawyer is Jack Early, and he really put on the she was a victim thing, right? That's really what they went with. He said that the murder was a spontaneous eruption, that it was not premeditated, that she was driven to do it, right? Like, because of everything that had happened and everything Dan did, she just lost her shit and had to do it, right? And it was really sad because their oldest daughter, Kim, had to take the stand for the prosecutor. And she, cried on the stand, and she had to talk about her mom's just outrageous behavior. But she still loves her mom, even after everything. She said that she showed absolutely no remorse for killing her father. And to see her on the stand, doing all this is very sad. But then at the end, before she gets off the stand, she looks at her mom and she says, like, I'm sorry, right, that I had to like get up here and say all this stuff. And Betty is crying. She said, I know, I understand. And it's just so sad.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. Just so sad. Betty in court had said that on her 36th birthday, she had tried to, slit her wrists to try to kill herself because she had suspected of Dan of cheating, and he just absolutely refused to come clean with it. Dan found her the next morning and said, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't leave your kids. You shouldn't do that. And I am not cheating. I swear on everything, I'm not cheating. Right. And in the trial, she actually gets up and shows her scars from her trying to kill herself to the jurors. And jurors were like, what are you doing? It's just crazy.
Well, obviously she didn't do a good enough job if he if she was like survived the night.
My just like seeing and hearing and after everything, I feel like she just does everything for attention.
Right. So she did just enough to make it look like she was gonna do it, but okay, gotcha.
Right. She's an exhausting person. She really
I see
is.
that. Right.
She just sucks the life out of you. Betty said that she went to the house to talk to Dan, to stop everything with the lawyers, that it just had to stop. And then she said she wanted to kill herself in front of him and splash her brains all over his goddamn house. That's what she said.
Oh my goodness.
You clean up this mess.
Basically, yeah. So on November 15th, it went to the jury. They were on their fourth day of deliberation. There was 2 holdouts, so it ended up being a deadlock.
Ooh.
So it was a mistrial.
Crazy.
So what were they claiming that she was? It was like just like a temporary insanity situation.
They were really trying to say, that it wasn't premeditated, right? She
Gotcha.
really
Okay.
just was brought to the brink of losing her shit.
Okay.
I just don't get how you go buy a gun and that's not premeditated.
Absolutely.
That's premeditated. That's the definition of premeditation.
And she left messages of her millions of messages saying, "I'm going to kill you."
Oh.
Yeah, she would say that.
Crazy.
I want to talk briefly, like, about, Dan and Linda's wedding. They had, friends had told Dan, "You should wear a bulletproof vest at your wedding." Right? And
everybody
Dan,
knew.
Yes, and Dan was like, "Look, it doesn't matter what, she's going to kill me. She's going to kill me." Right?
Oh.
Yeah. And so I guess before the wedding, Betty broke into Dan and Linda's house and stole the wedding guest list. And Linda lost her goddamn mind and went to Betty's house, and Betty wasn't there. She couldn't find the guest list, but Linda found Betty's memoir that she was writing about herself, and she called the memoir, "What's a Good Girl to Do?" And Linda's like, "Holy shit, dude." She took it home and showed Dan. Dan's like, "You better fucking take that back. I swear to God, Linda, you're making it worse."
Don't provoke her.
Don't provoke her. Right? So September 1991 was the second trial. There was a video that had come out, and it's kind of crazy. I guess the prosecutors had done a subpoena so they could get any video footage in case Betty acted a fool while she was waiting for her child to start in lockup. And then there was a video of her acting a fool that came out that played on the news before her second trial happened. Wow. And so you see her just screaming and yelling, and all these officers are trying to handle her. It's a hot mess, right? And then they drag her, and there's 6 of them dealing with her, getting her into isolation. And then they said after they stopped taping that footage that she defecated in isolation and smeared her feces all over the room. And so that all came out before her second trial, right?
Was she in jail? Was this happening in jail?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because she's waiting for her trial.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that bitch ain't walking around, okay?
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't know if she was in a mental institute or if she was in jail.
Yeah, she was just waiting for her trial.
Okay.
And her attorney, of course, said it was a setup. They subpoenaed for a video, and then instantly a video comes out. It was kind of crazy, right? So that happened in September before the second trial. The second trial actually started October 15th. And this one was broadcast live. So live footage, you could watch the craziness. And it really was crazy. It's very entertaining to watch this trial. It's all nuts. So Betty changed her version from the first trial. So when she was up on stand, she was saying things differently, like, well, Dan and Linda woke up when I was in the room, and one of them said, call 911. And the prosecutor, Carrie Wells, just ripped her a new one, you know, pulling out all transcripts from the first trial, saying, like, that's different, and you're a liar, and you changed this, and this didn't happen. So just was on attack. And Carrie Wells is, you know, talks about to this day, she said she just had enough. She just had enough of Betty, and she just kind of let loose. She lost her shit and just ripped on her. She just couldn't hold back on her. So fun fact, Betty, back in her school days, had been an excellent marksman.
Ooh, so scary. Ooh.
She knows how to shoot. And I don't think there's anything more terrifying than this lady knowing how to shoot and being so good at it. And I guess that, you know, Dan had gotten like multiple calls from different strangers at different like shooting ranges saying, hey, do you know a Betty Broderick? And he'd say, yes. And he's like, well, she's here practicing shooting, talking about killing you and stuff. But I just thought I'd let you know.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
Right. And so when we're doing the second trial, they're talking about how all 5 shots are perfect shots. And she must have been in her right mind to aim and get these perfect shots, right? It wasn't like it was done in a fury of shit.
Right.
So then it was given to the jury, and again, 4 days of deliberation. They had 1 holdout, so they had 11 for murder, and 1 was saying no manslaughter. And the foreman pulled out the tape of Betty talking to her 11-year-old son to kind of remind them, like, this is pure craziness and we need to come to a decision on this case. Like, this lady is out of control. And so they did a compromise verdict. That's what he called it. And he said all jurors were very emotional, crying. You know, it was very hard, you know, to do. On December 10th, 1991, the verdict came down and it was guilty, second-degree murder. So that's 32 years to life. And she was eligible for parole in 2011. And she did like a shit ton of interviews from jail. Like, she even did an interview from jail with Oprah.
Really?
Damn.
If I have to go to jail to talk to Oprah, I will.
So, at this point, is she still like a beautiful woman like she was, or did she like turn into like some like crazy looking haggy lady?
She looks insane.
Really?
She gained 60 pounds. She just, everything she says is just nuts. Just watching her on the stand, you're like, oh my God, I cannot imagine being married to this woman.
Ooh,
She's
okay.
insane. There was 2 TV movies made from this. There was a Law and Order episode. Shirley Knight and Meredith Baxter Burney both played her and both won awards for playing her because she doesn't love a crazy lady. So I wanted to bring up some things that Dan did that really were kind of fucked up. Just saying.
Okay. Okay.
So
aside from cheating on her, right?
Right. So I told you that Betty and Dan met after a USC Notre Dame game, right? And at the bar they met. And Betty had actually kept a beer mug from that bar from that night and like kind of had it up in their house, like from when they met, sentimental. And throughout their marriage, they would go to the USC Notre Dame games together. Like, it was like this sweet thing that they did. Well, Dan stopped doing that with her and started taking Linda.
Oh, come on.
Right? Then they had gotten this like specialty china done. Like, back then that was very big, right? Getting your china for your wedding and everything. It was like the same people who did her china that later did, I guess, the Obama's china. Like a big deal. And that you know, she didn't get her china and it drove her nuts that Linda was eating off of her china. Like that drove her crazy. That Linda used the same person to do her new stationery that Betty had used. They used the same family photographer for their photos that Betty had used. So like all these little things just drove Betty. Yes. And it was really frustrating for her because she said she felt like she had gotten Dan through all the schooling and took care of his kids for him to make all this money, right? And what does she have to show for it? And people said that she was obsessed with money, that she had a serious spending problem, you know, just would rack up credit cards. And one woman said that she worshiped money. She worshiped it, which is just just kind of crazy. It turns out that she had actually been pregnant 9 times within a 10-year period. So yeah, so like she had been through a lot. She had gone through a lot. So I just think it's kind of sad. Like you watch the movies and you see how crazy she is through all this, but in a lot of ways, like she did go through a lot. She's obviously, you know, suffering from a mental illness. It's very sad that Dan and Linda died. It broke my heart because they have these 4 kids. They lost their father. Their mom is in prison. And, you know, they did go and would like visit their mom and spend this time with her and everything. But when Betty came up for parole, her daughter did write a letter and said, do not parole her. She has never, ever felt bad or felt remorse for killing my father. She still did that. And I think that speaks volumes, right? Yeah. So that's the story of Betty and Dan Broderick.
Wow. I had never heard that story before.
That's so nuts, man.
I know. So she didn't get parole in 2011, and she's currently still in there.
I believe
2020. Wow.
Yeah. She is
crazy.
Yeah. I guess she's like a model prisoner, though. Of course, like she gets everyone to like her, and that's part of that borderline personality.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very manipulative.
Yes.
Oh, Betty.
Hey, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah,
it was like pretty local.
Yeah.
And it was new to me, so that's great. I love it.
You should watch the made-for-TV movies with Meredith Baxter Burney.
Okay.
It's just
okay, cool.
Love it. I think I will.
That's so great. Yeah. Okay, so are we ready for some paranormal?
Yeah.
Okay, I think this might be a 2-parter. I'm not sure. I'm gonna play it by ear because I have a feeling it's gonna take me a bit to get through the story.
Okay, so let's do a 2-parter because I don't have that much time.
Right, no, and I don't want like a 3-hour episode either. So okay, so I'm going to tell you guys the story of Dear David. Have you guys heard the story before?
No.
Okay.
Have you, Jay? Dear David.
I don't think so.
She might have. She might once it
sounds familiar, but I gotta hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
In August of 2017, comic artist and author Adam Ellis went on his Twitter account and he told his followers that he was being haunted by the ghost of a dead child. And he also said that the ghost child was trying to kill him.
What?
So, yeah. So then he basically documented the whole situation by tweeting all his experiments. And I'm going to
I've never heard of this before.
Really?
You guys putting it on Twitter?
Yeah, you guys, it's so freaky. So have you heard of it now, Dre?
I have. I remember because I remember this guy being really cute too. He's like,
he's a little hottie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is the reason why the reason why I think this might be a two-parter is because I want to read it tweet for tweet, because that's the only way to get the whole story and just get into it and, you know, feel the way he felt. And then there's also like sound bites, and there's pictures, and there's videos. So I want to like describe, because you guys can go later and see all that stuff. But I want to tell you as it falls into the story. So I'm going to have to describe all that stuff. Okay, so on August 7th, 2017, he goes on Twitter, and his Twitter name is really funny. You know, he's an author, so I get it. So it's Moby underscore Dick, but then it's Moby Dickhead is his, which is funny because you're going to go like viral on Twitter, and Tony is like, you know, and then your name is Dickhead, which is so funny. So his very first tweet, it was 8:35 in the morning on August 7th in 2017. He says, "So, my apartment is currently being haunted by the ghost of a dead child, and he's trying to kill me." So a little while after that, hey Velvet, hey Frank. So then right after that, he says, he started appearing to me in dreams, but I think he's crossed over into the real world now. Oh. And at that point, like 6,000 people had seen it. Almost 1,000 people were commenting on it at this point. Now, you know, that this was also 3 years ago. So I'm sure that's, you know, whenever they printed this. Oh, by the way, I'm on wakelet.com, which is a really cool website. They actually have all the tweets screenshotted, which is awesome. Thank you, Wakelet. So a minute later, he says, okay, the first time I saw him, I was experiencing sleep paralysis, which number one is fucking so scary. And then he saw the child sitting in the green rocking chair in front of his bed. So he's having sleep paralysis. He wakes up and he sees this child. Now, he's going to describe what we know now. His name is David, but at this point, he doesn't know his name is David. He had a huge misshapen head that was dented in on one side.
Oh no.
And he said, I did my best to draw it. And he actually draws a picture of this kid. And I don't know if you guys can see it.
Put it closer. Okay.
You see that?
Oh no.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
Horrifying.
Yeah, it's really creepy looking. For a while, he just stared at me. That's it. But then he got out of the chair and started shambling toward the bed. Shambling, what a word. I couldn't move because I was paralyzed. I have sleep paralysis fairly often, and it totally sucks. Right before he reached my bed, I woke up screaming. Okay, so that was August 7th. Okay, so then he continues still on August 7th. He said, I had another dream a few nights later where I was in a library and a girl came up to me and said, you've seen Dear David, haven't you? And I was like, who? And she said, Dear David, you saw him. She continued, he's dead. He only appears at midnight. And you can ask him 2 questions if you said, Dear David first. Then she added, but never try and ask him a 3rd question or he'll kill you.
What?
Yeah. I was very shaken. Having 2 dreams about the same thing is pretty weird. Anyway, a couple weeks passed without incident. So he's still telling his story. It's still August 7th. Then David came back in another dream. Same situation. I was in bed and he was sitting in the rocking chair near the window staring at me. In the dream, I say, Dear David, how did you die? He mumbles, an accident in a store. I say, Dear David, what happened in the store? He groans, a shelf was pushed on my head.
Oh.
I'm frozen with fear. I ask, who pushed the shelf? David doesn't answer. Then I realize I've asked a third question, which I'm not supposed to do. At that point, I wake up absolutely terrified. The next couple of days, I Googled deaths in the city, but can't find anything about a kid named David dying in a store. I even tried different names, Daniel, Dylan, Devin, nothing. A few weeks go by without incident. Sort of randomly, the apartment above mine is vacated, and I have the opportunity to move into it. It's a larger apartment, so I'm thrilled. After a month or two goes by, and I sort of forget about dear David, I think he lost track of me because I moved upstairs. But lately, something strange is happening. For the past 4 nights, my cats gather at the front door exactly at midnight and just stare at it, almost like there's something on the other side. So he posts the picture of his front door, and now he lives in New York, so he's in it's probably a very teeny tiny apartment, and the cats are just kind of like hunkered down, and they're like just staring like at the underneath part of the door. And he said they just sit there at midnight every night and just sit there.
Creepy.
Then he says, last night I got a weird feeling and looked out through the peephole, and I'm dead certain I saw movement on the other side. When I opened the door and turned on the hall light, nothing was there, but my cats seem unnerved, bushy tails, etc. And that's where I am right now. Dear David found me, I think. I don't know what to do. I'll keep you updated. Okay, so then this is Wednesday, August 9th, a few days later. He puts update. For the 6th night in a row, my cat has walked over to the door promptly at midnight and stares at it. What is going on? And then he takes a video of the cat, and she's kind of sitting there acting strange, just kind of like staring at the door just for hours, right? And she like does like little chirps and like little meows and whatever. And then he says, okay, so I took a photo through the peephole because I'm too scared to open the door and I feel like I saw something. Okay, did I say that part already? I couldn't tell, so I mustered the courage to open the door. Nothing was out there, but I took another photo. Look at this. So he posts the picture of the peephole, and this hallway is really weird. Right to the left, he has like looks like a bookshelf that you can put shoes on so that you can put your shoes in before you walk into your door. And then it's kind of like a weird wood railing, and immediately there's stairs right there. So there's maybe like 6 feet from his front door to where the beginning of the stairs go down. And in the peephole, you kind of see like a black mist floating like where the staircase is. But then when he opens the door and takes the picture, it's plain. There's like nothing there. So that's kind of creepy. And then he says, I wasn't sure if it was a smudge or something, so I took a second photo from inside, and there was something out there. And you can actually see like where this railing is. It's kind of like it doesn't even look like it's a railing. This looks like it's like 2 4x4s like nailed together. You can see kind of like this black blob down at the bottom, almost like a shadow person. That's really creepy. So he said, I deadbolted the lock and got in bed because I don't know what else to do. I can still hear my cat meowing at the door. I'm pretty scared. And then he took a picture of his cat at the door, and it's all dark, and the cat's eyes like are totally glowing. So it looks kind of freaky, but you know, that's just like any type of normal picture that you take of an animal. Okay, so this is the next day, August 10th. It's been pretty quiet tonight. I'm gonna try out a sleep talk app and see if anything happens during the night. You guys, I did this last night because I've had my insomnia and I wanted to know, I think I might have sleep apnea, I don't know. So I actually recorded myself last night, and it recorded me like 5 or 6 different times. And I listened to the first one and I don't think I was asleep yet. So it just got me kind of like wrestling around in bed. And then I couldn't listen to any of the other ones. I have to upgrade and pay money. I'm so pissed.
Oh no.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. So anyways, so last night was a bust, but I'm scared too, because I'm like, what if I catch something, you know, while I'm sleeping? That would just fucking freak me out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he says, it's pretty quiet tonight. I'm going to try out the sleep app, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm heading to bed, but the cats are back at the door. They only do this in the middle of the night. It's routine now. So he actually takes a little selfie of himself, and he is a little cutie patootie. And his two cats at the same spot in front of the door are sitting right there. And then he takes a video and he says, and here we go, just minutes before midnight. And the cat goes over there and she does the same thing that she does every night. And then the other one comes and they're both hanging out, hunkered down, just looking outside, you know, at nothing. Who knows? So this guy, I love him so much. So the next picture is he has like the canister of like salt, you know, like the little salt girl that has the umbrella. And this is one of those.
The Morton salt, yeah.
Yeah. So that's sitting on the floor, and he totally like put a big huge salt circle around the front of his door. And he's like, I don't even know if this is the right kind of salt. And then he's like, Maxwell is extra talkative tonight. He's obviously trying to tell me something. So it's another video, and I think the cat's like kind of like looking at him and like meow, 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 like saying, dude, there's a fucking something out there. So this is Friday, August 11th, the next night. He said, I used that sound app to record my apartment last night. It makes individual recordings each time it hears something. There were 33 recordings. Wow. So he's like,
33? 33?
33?
33?
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit, y'all.
Oh, shit. How does that number keep on popping up? That's so weird. So most of them are pretty vague. A couple of them are passing cars and the like, but there are 3 that I'm interested in. The first one is a snapping sound that seems like a single step. It's odd because I didn't get out of bed at all that night. And then he does a sound bite where you can hear that. This one is weird because out of the 33 recordings, this is the only one that has this strange electric sound throughout. And it just kind of sounds like staticky, like if you're on the phone and maybe you're going through some like interference. This is like a weird staticky sound. So you can also hear that sound bite. And then this directly follows the static sound, another snap, and then I groan in my sleep. This happens between 2 and 3 a.m. I have no explanation for them. I'll keep recording and share if I find anything curious. So the 12th of August, this is that Saturday, he takes a little selfie, getting the F out of my haunted apartment for the weekend. So he has his little backpack on. He's doing the little, you know, peace sign, and he takes a selfie of himself. And then he says, I have no explanation for this. He must be talking about maybe the sound bites. I'm not exactly sure. So then Monday the 14th. Okay, so he's gone all day Sunday, comes back Monday. So a weird thing just happened, and I'm taking it with a grain of salt. I bought a Polaroid camera this weekend because they're fun and dorky, and I decided to take a few photos around my apartment. Love him so much. Totally would do this. Polaroids are stupid and fun and inherently sort of creepy. I didn't expect to find anything, and for the most part, I didn't. I took a couple of photos of my living room. That's the rocking chair that I first saw David in, and it's one of those like almost like one of those chairs that you find at IKEA. It's like a plastic chair, and then it's a rocking chair, but it's all like metal. So there's like you know, the metal, and the rocking part is on metal. So he's showing a picture of the front door, looks totally normal. Then he shows a picture of like the edge of his bed, and then the green rocking chair in the corner, looks totally normal. Then I went into the hallway and snapped a photo, and the Polaroid developed totally black. So literally the picture is black, black, black. Like, it's not like if you put your finger on the, you know, the lens, or if like something like fell in front of it, it's like blacked out, totally blacked out. He says, I even ripped open and destroyed a fresh pack to see if it was just an undeveloped Polaroid, but they all start out as white. So he shows the package. He has them all found out like a deck of cards, and all the Polaroids are just white, white, white. So it wasn't that. I also thought maybe I accidentally covered the lens with my finger, so I took a photo while intentionally covering it. The photo on the left is me covering the lens with my finger, and the one on the right is the fully lit hallway taken just after midnight. So there's that black one of the hallway, and then the one next to him is like grainy and like grayish brown color, and you can totally tell that there was something blocking the lens. So this could be nothing. I'm not sure what to make of it. Okay, one last thing, because I wanted to double check. Here's a couple video of me taking the photos. So he actually took a video on his phone while he was taking the Polaroids. And that's all that the video is. And then the hallway. Okay, this is fucking freaky, you guys. So he has his camera phone, and then the Polaroid, and he takes a picture of the hallway, and the Polaroid is totally blacked out. Then he takes the video, and you can totally see the light on in the hallway. His door's wide open, you know, nothing's going on. And then he takes a picture of the hallway from his cell phone, and that picture is his apartment. It's all lit, everything, and the door's open. The hallway is totally blacked out, like there's no light in there at all, period. Yeah.
What?
So creepy. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then when I noticed, I'm like, oh shit, like it almost looks like maybe the light was off in the hallway. Nope, they coincide with each other. Like it was just,
wow.
yeah, totally crazy. So then he took a picture of the hallway again with the Polaroid, and it came blacked out totally again. Honestly, I don't know why I'm still fucking around with this camera. There might be a logical explanation. This guy's doing total paranormal investigating, and then he's like so doubting himself. I'm like, dude, no. This whole thread has really been convoluted, and I'm sorry if it's hard to follow. I just thought that it was all weird and just wanted to share with you guys. So this is the next day. I love this. Folks have been urging me to get some sage, so I did. So he's taking a picture of his little sage, and you know, and you can see the smoke, and he's in his apartment, saging the hall, and definitely saging the hell out of that rocking chair. I'm totally loving him. Honestly, the sage doesn't seem like it helped much, but I'm open to anything. I barely slept last night. I kept waking up feeling like something was wrong, but who knows? Maybe this will do something. And then the morning after, sage did not work.
Oh,
I haven't dreamt about, yeah, he's like, I haven't dreamt about David in a few months, but he appeared again to me last night. In the dream, my bedroom was filled with hazy smoke, and I could see David sitting in the chair across the room. He was smaller this time, almost shrunken. He didn't do or say anything except look at me. Anyway, I feel like it's a bad omen. And then we move on to Friday, August 18th. It's been 2 weeks, and he still does this every night at midnight, and he's taking a picture of his cat, Maxwell. Other weird stuff has been happening too. I've been recording myself sleeping, and it picks up this weird static electricity sound every night at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. Yeah, and it lasts about 5 minutes. This morning I woke up to the whole house shaking. It felt like a small earthquake. There might be an explanation for this one, and I hope he tells us right now. I debated even mentioning that on Twitter because it sounds made up, but I distinctively felt the house swaying. It's just a whole bunch of small things happening at once. I feel so uneasy, like right before a thunderstorm comes. Everyone is telling me to move, but I don't have any guarantee that this won't follow me. I love you. Exactly. They then issue a thunderstorm warning for tonight. And it says on the thing on the screen or on his probably phone, it's a severe thunderstorm warning.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the city is talking about how weird the sky looks. I can hear rolling thunder in the distance. And then he takes a picture of like this, the, you know, outside, and it's really actually really beautiful. It's like blue and orange and yellow. It's actually really beautiful. All this ghost stuff has been spooky, but this past weekend was the first time I actually felt unsafe in my home. On Friday night, there was supposed to be a huge storm. In the end, it passed, and that night was bizarre anyways. Now, I don't know if I've told you guys this or not, but when there is a thunderstorm with lightning, it seems to rile up the spirits and the paranormal activity because it's so much in the air, and there's all that electricity from the, you know, the lightning to draw energy from. So when the ghost stories of long ago, it was a dark and stormy night and da 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 da, it's totally true.
Yeah.
Because shit does happen. And if you watch a lot, like I do, if you watch Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and whatever, whenever there is rain or whenever there is, you know, thunder and lightning, we'll just pause there for them. They're very excited today for some reason.
Well, the wind must have blown outside.
People are outside like doing their lawns and stuff.
No, they just bark at everything all the time. It drives me nuts.
Excellent. I love dogs. My dogs do the same thing, but they're Chihuahuas, so that's expected of them.
Yeah.
So anyways, what I was saying is with these ghost shows and the ghost hunting and all that, they always say there's a storm outside, we're gonna get some crazy shit, and they always do.
Yeah.
So I fell asleep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you were gonna mention, like, you kind of had a feeling that you knew what the house shaking was, but he didn't mention it, right?
Okay. So he lives in a 2-story apartment building. He's not like in a big skyrise apartment or anything, but it's above a subway system. So he does get shaky every once in a while. I saw a video of him, and I think they mentioned that he might say it later on in the, you know, because I've read this like 100 times. He might say that later on, and I just kind of like jumped the gun, but that's one of the reasons why.
Okay.
So he said, I fell asleep pretty early. I was incredibly tired for some reason. I had a dream that night where David was dragging me by the arm through an old abandoned warehouse. I'm not sure why I didn't fight back in the dream or how he was so strong enough to pull me, but that's dream logic for you. It was a creepy dream, but I didn't think much of it when I woke up. I took a shower and then I noticed something. I woken up with a huge bruise on my arm, and it's a picture of his arm, and it's right here, as if someone grabbed him and was pulling him by his arm. Yeah.
Dude, I would run out of my apartment. Oh my God.
Dude, shit hasn't even started yet. This is like the bottom of the story here.
Oh.
So he goes, now look, maybe I injured myself that day before and my arm was hurting during the night, which manifested the dream. There could be a totally logical explanation for it, so I brushed it off. I went to get coffee like I do every weekend. So he's walking to a coffee shop. When I walk to this coffee place, I always pass a food cart repair depot. It's always incredibly busy, especially on weekends. I've lived in the neighborhood for over 4 years, and this place has always been jam-packed with carts getting serviced. But today, it was completely abandoned. The whole warehouse was totally gutted and empty. So he takes a picture, and it's like there's one of those roll-up doors on one side, and on, you know, where you walk in, and then he takes a picture, and it's just like this dark, empty warehouse. It's all cement, all bricks. It's just spooky, scary. It kind of looks like an underground parking lot. Well, almost empty. I went inside and looked around because I was astonished that this place was suddenly empty after all these years. Basically, the only thing in the entire warehouse was a single green chair. So up against one of the little like pillars, there's a chair. It's just like a wooden chair that you would see like in a kitchen, dining set. And it's just like, it's the seat is tan color, but all the legs and the back part is all like a hunter green color. If you recall, David first appeared in my green rocking chair. It could be nothing, but it's weird that it's the only thing left behind. On my way back from getting coffee, the warehouse had been shuttered, and it remains shuttered to this day. So that roll-up metal thing is now closed. There's no one in there. There's no way he can get into it. So just during that period of time that he walked to the coffee shop and back, they locked it up.
Weird.
The chair, my bruise, dreaming about an empty warehouse and then passing by one, it gave me the creeps. Needless to say, I didn't sleep much that night. Too many strange things are happening and more frequently. So I don't know. Anyway, it was a strange weekend. So now it's Friday, August 25th. There have been a few small developments in my apartment, but I'm not really sure what to make of them. I just know I'm scared. If you recall, my cats usually gather at the door at midnight, but lately it's been getting earlier and earlier every night. I was almost used to the routine. So when they started to cry at the door closer to 10, I was confused. They began a new routine. Hover around the door at 10, cry for about 15 minutes, then wander off if nothing's wrong. But this week, something else has been happening. Shortly after the usual cat stuff around 10:30 or so, I start getting phone calls from an unmarked number. My entire call history for the past week looks like this. You'll notice that I answered one yesterday. So he shows caller ID unknown, caller ID unknown, caller ID unknown, and they're all red, but there's one that's black that shows that he answered that one. Since this has been happening for days on end, I thought it might be an automated telemarketer or something. Instead, so he decided to answer it. Let's see. Usually if it's an automated thing, if you answer once, they'll quit calling. So I picked up. Instead, what I heard on the other end was that peculiar electrical static sound. Very similar to the static my sleep app picks up at night.
That would freak me out. Why isn't he not running out of his apartment yet? Oh my God.
It's gonna follow him.
He said,
Mommy, dickhead, run!
I didn't say anything. I just listened, waiting for some automated message to chime in. After about a minute, the static stopped and there was silence. I kept listening. I thought I heard what was breathing, but it was so faint that I can't be sure. My heart was racing, so it was hard to hear. You know how you hear that heartbeat in your ears? Then just as I was about to hang up, I heard a very small voice whisper, "Hello."
No.
Holy fuck.
Is this the moment he runs out of the apartment and down the street?
Something about the way they said hello freaked me out. It wasn't a question or a greeting. Just hello, a flat statement, so quiet I could barely hear it. I panicked and hung up. I didn't know what else to do. I closed all the curtains in my apartment and turned out every single light. Huh? I turned every fucking light on. Oh, he turned them all on.
Yes.
Okay, he turned them on.
Geez.
Okay.
Jeez.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, what the fuck? Okay. Yeah, he turned them all on. I watched TV until dawn because I was too scared to go to sleep. I sort of feel like I'm losing my mind. If I look at each individual incidents on its own, there are perfectly logical explanations for everything. But after 3 weeks of weird shit happening, I don't know how to make sense of it all. The only thing I feel like I can do right now is write everything down. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'll keep on doing. Okay. So this is Monday, August 28th. He says, okay, so he's showing a picture of the rocking chair. And oh, I'm sorry. The rocking chair, the rocking part are like wood pieces, but the legs are metal. So I moved the green chair out of my bedroom weeks ago. It's been in various parts of the living room ever since. I should probably get rid of it, but I'm not sure that that would have any effect. Also, I'm going on vacation to Japan in 3 weeks. And I keep thinking if I can make it to my trip, this will be the end of it, as dumb as that sounds. David lost track of me once when I moved, so maybe if he believes I left the apartment again, maybe he'll leave me alone. Anyway, last week I bought a pet monitoring camera so I can keep an eye on the cats while I'm overseas. It's basically a nanny cam that connects to the Wi-Fi so you can check it whenever you want. It runs 24/7. So it alerts you to a sound and movement via an app. I blacked out the company name since I doubt they want to be associated with ghosts. So he's showing like these little text messages on his phone that says motion detected from, and he's blacked out like where it's coming from.
Yeah.
In any event, I decided to test it out this weekend. I was away from home one night, so I set up the camera before I left. My phone pinged periodically through the evening, alerting me to the cats running around and playing, normal stuff. Then around 11, it alerted me again that it detected motion. But when I checked the feed of my apartment, I didn't see anything. So I watched the feed again, still nothing. I watched it a third time and finally noticed something. So then he posts a video and he says, watch the chair. And all of a sudden the chair starts rocking by itself. I knew it couldn't be the wind because I haven't had the windows open at all this summer. I have AC and I keep it very chilly. It was unnerving, but there wasn't anything I could do about it right then, so I flipped my phone off and tried not to panic. About a half an hour later, I got another motion alert. Here's the feed of that alert. And here is a video of it again. And he's like, if you missed it the first time like me, look above the shelf. It's a turtle shell that I have hung on the wall. So the chair is to the left. There's like a bookshelf. He has some plants on it, some books. And above the very top of the shelf is this little round thing. You don't know what it is from the video, but he's telling you it's a shell, a turtle shell. It flies off the wall and falls down behind the bookshelf.
Oh.
Yes, I know it's weird to own a turtle shell, but my family lives in Montana and I picked it up last year at a native trading post. So he's holding the turtle shell, looks exactly like that. It's the size of his hand. Since I've been back home, I've been too nervous to turn the camera back on, and today has been very quiet. That said, I feel very uneasy. I put the chair in the hall. I hope nothing else happens tonight. Okay, so then this is Tuesday, September 5th. It's happening again. I've been leaving the nanny cam on 24/7. It records every time there's movement or sound, as you know. I was going over the feed from this weekend and noticed some weird stuff. During the night on Saturday while I slept, it recorded the cats in the living room. It seemed pretty unremarkable at first. But then a few moments later, Maxwell freaks out and jumps over something invisible. Okay, so let me tell you, he's a all black cat, and then he has Maxwell. Maxwell's black and white, and he's a three-legged cat. So he kind of runs around really fast, like, it doesn't even faze him that he has 3 legs. And they're kind of like fooling around, and Maxwell just turns around and literally leaps over something that's not there. And that's what this video shows. He's like, I don't think it was a bug or anything. Maxwell just doesn't like bugs. He just eats them, but something spooked him. What's more, I almost never get bugs. It seems like in the 3 years I've been here, no bugs. Anyway, the next night, the camera recorded a couple more strange videos. Specifically, it recorded Maxwell doing this on and off for hours. Okay, you guys, this is so fucking creepy, okay? Animals see things. That's just the way they are.
Yeah.
They can, they say animals get freaked out before earthquakes. They say animals can see spirits, whatever. So Maxwell, the 3-legged cat, is sitting on the couch and he's standing up on his hind legs for hours, just standing straight up on his hind legs. He starts batting at something with his good arm, and there's nothing there. And then he's like looking and following something in front of him. He says his face is just like moving back and forth, and he's looking up and he's looking down. Yeah.
Stop it.
He sat up on his hind legs and peer around at the room as if he's watching something or looking at something. This is odd behavior for him. I can't come up with an explanation for it, especially because of the next video. And then here's the final video on the camera recorded that night. I suppose there's no chance it was a fly, but I honestly never get flies, so that seems unlikely. And that's when he started kind of like batting at nothing. I just can't shake the feeling that something has made its way into the apartment. It's odd behavior from my Maxwell. In any event, things feel off this week. I can't explain it. So then this is the following Saturday, September 16th. I've been having so many nightmares lately. They're way more intense than my usual dreams too. I don't know if it's because I'm stressed or if it's something else. This afternoon, I took a nap and I had a dream that I haven't been able to shake. In the dream, I was laying in bed and rolled over to face the other direction. On the pillow next to me was a severed head with a bloody spine attached, snaking down the bed.
Ew.
Oh my God!
No. Why?
The head was staring right at me, somehow still alive. It had a huge smile plastered on its face. Horrified, I screamed. Horrified, I screamed. What happened to you? The head smiled even bigger. It feels great, the head groaned.
What? It feels great. Feels great, man. Nobody.
After that, I woke up. It was dark outside by then. Everything was quiet. Other dreams have been just as strange, things like dark figures staring in my windows, even though I live on the second floor. Stuff that makes no sense in relation to what I've been experiencing in real life. After that dream about the head, I've been feeling uneasy all night. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I decided to go for a walk, if for no other reason than just to get out of my apartment. I went to the bodega a few blocks away and got a snack. On the way, I had passed a warehouse that was boarded up a few weeks ago. It's actually on the way to everything. I pass it twice a day just to get to the subway. I hurried past it since it freaks me out now. At the bodega, I got some Doritos and a seltzer and then made my way back home. When I passed the warehouse a second time, I heard a dull thunk from the other side of the shutters. I froze in place, but there was no other sound after that. I probably should have just continued on, but curiosity got the better of me. There was a grated window next to the doors, about a foot above my head, too high to see into. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna hold my phone up to the window and take one photo and then run for my life. I made sure the flash was on. I positioned my camera lens through one of the grates and snapped a photo. I almost thought I saw movement when the flash went off, but I couldn't be certain. The light bounced off the grates and was pretty blinding. I couldn't even look at the photo. I just ran all the way home. I was too jumpy to look at it for a while. Then I ate my Doritos nervously. When I finally did take a look at the photo, here is what I saw. It seemed to be a different part of the warehouse, maybe an office. There was a bunch of old insulation and what looked like a filing cabinet and a ripped up leather desk chair. So the picture, you can see like part of the windowsill, and then it just looks like a bunch of junk. It just looks like a filing cabinet or a dresser or a chair, and just like a bunch of like just crap like thrown on it. It really doesn't look like anything. Then I noticed something else in the upper right corner, something that looked like a face. The more I stare at it, the more it started to look like a nondescript blur. Now I can't even be sure what I'm seeing. Maybe I'm too deep into this and my brain wants to see David when he's not there. But here, I mess with the filters on my phone a bit. Tell me this doesn't look like him. And there's a picture of like a half face with like a round bald head, because he's bald almost.
Yeah, he has part of his head missing.
You really can't see it. I mean, I don't know. You guys, when you look at it, you can see what you think. I don't think it is, but it could be. The past few days have been fairly quiet. I haven't been spending much time at home. I leave for Japan in a couple of hours. I've been trying to avoid anything weird before my trip. I still feel like this all might stop if I just leave for a couple weeks. Whatever happens, I want to thank everyone for their kind thoughts and concerns. This whole ordeal has been stressful and it means a lot. It makes me feel like I'm not going through this alone. See you in a couple weeks. And that is where I'm going to stop.
Oh, come on.
Tune
So
in next week.
yeah,
Oh
next
my
week
gosh.
next week I'll finish it. But yeah, what do you guys think? What do you guys think so far?
Edge. I can't wait.
Oh my gosh. When I heard this a long time ago,
story.
when I heard this a long time ago, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then I didn't really get into it as deep as I am now, and I watched some shows about it. And of course I've read this 100 times, and yeah, it just freaks me out every time I read it.
It's so fun.
It's so crazy, right? Yeah.
Yes. Good,
So,
good.
There we go.
I can't wait.
I
Can't
know.
wait to hear the ending. It's gonna kill me.
I know, it's
Ah!
I always get like sweaty hands every time I hear your paranormal stuff. I'm like, ah! My feet are sweaty, my hands are sweaty.
And
I'm
now,
like a little
you
kid.
guys, it gets so crazy after this. Like, I don't want to spoil it, but I'm just gonna spoil this one part.
No, don't.
It doesn't stop when he gets back from Japan. I'm just telling you that.
Oh, I hope it doesn't. Jeez, we need more.
He gets back from Japan, and that's it. The end.
And it's worse.
That was a fun story.
Yeah. Nope. So yeah.
And
it's
and the
really
little boy
good.
brought his mama.
Don't cheat, you guys. Listeners, don't cheat. You guys don't cheat. Yeah.
I will not.
Okay.
I don't have time to cheat anyway.
Yeah, I don't
Because
have
it's
time to
all
cheat.
over the internet. You just put Dear David and you can find it all over the place. So don't cheat, because it'll spoil it. It will totally spoil it. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
So,
are we ready?
Is it a badass story of the week?
Badass story
of the week.
Woo! All right. Ooh, my heart is still like pounding.
Oh no.
All right. So I've got a really nice short one for you guys. And then I want to follow it with a quick quote. So, we've been at the stay-at-home orders, and everybody's hair is a mess and all of that.
What are you talking about? I look good.
I was just thinking women got it easy because, like, we don't have to cut our hair, but men, like, I've seen
the roots.
Guys with this crazy, the roots are crazy, first of all, yes. It looks like I'm going bald.
Well, I have no
whatever.
roots. I finally did mine. I looked, and then I decided to do the DIY quarantine cut on my own, and I cut off about 5 inches, 6 inches almost.
It looks great.
Thank you. It just feels so great.
So one of the things that's happening is, like, a lot of our hairstyle experts are really out of work and having a tough time making ends meet, right? So people are doing great things, like sending Venmo money, right? Just like, hey, I can't come in, I know, but I want to support you.
Right.
Tip, whatever. So that's been going on a lot, which is really cool.
Yeah,
but
sweet.
there's this hair salon in Denver, a barbershop in Denver, that opened up and started doing haircuts, sporadically. And so this guy walks in, and there's this stylist. She's 32 years old. Her name is Ilsia Novotny, and she is a single mom. And he walks in, and he's like, how's everything been going? And I hope, you guys are doing okay. And they talked about the struggles of the stay-at-home orders. And then so when he leaves, he tells her, he looks over at her and says, like, just so you know, it's not a mistake. And she's like, what? Like, that's a weird thing to say. Bye, have a good day. I don't know. The receptionist runs over and starts crying and says, like, you're never going to believe this. He left you a $2,500 tip.
Dang.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that gave me chills.
That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Okay,
I
but
love
it
that.
doesn't stop there. So he tipped her $2,500, right? And then he also gave the receptionist $500.
Wow.
He gave the general manager $1,000. And in all of this, he realized that, you know, there's an additional 18 employees that work at the salon. And so he left an additional $1,800 so that each one of them who he didn't have any interaction with gets $100.
That's
Wow.
amazing. Oh my
That's
God.
so cool.
Right.
Oh, I love it.
He is our badass. I
Yeah.
don't know his name because he's
no.
an anonymous donor.
Oh.
Right.
I love
okay.
anonymous badass.
Yeah. But he spent like, what is that, like $5,000? You know, just
Wow, that's
more
so
than
cool.
more than $6,000 right out of his pocket. So, man, he's a badass, and I love him.
That is amazing.
Really, really good.
Yeah, that's
And
really
then
cool.
I know we've been feeling like a certain kind of way with all the sadness going on in the world, and I always try to stay optimistic. And today is Clint Eastwood's 90th birthday.
What?
Oh my God.
90 years old. And I'm going to share with you a quote from Clint Eastwood, okay? It says, "I don't believe in pessimism. If something doesn't come up the way you want, forge ahead. If you think it's going to rain, it will."
Yes.
Be optimistic, y'all.
Thanks, Clint. Happy birthday.
I actually
Happy
needed
birthday.
that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love him. I love him so much.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too. So there you go.
It was
All
very
right,
good.
yay,
Thank you.
yeah, thanks, Dre.
Yay.
Yeah, that was awesome.
You're welcome.
Yay. Are we ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
All right. 1, 2, 3. We
We do what we want.
Woo!
Woo!
All right.
All right,
guys.
guys.
Bye, guys. Love you.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Handcuffs and Sage is hosted by Red, Timo, and Dre in a shitty guest room in Los Angeles.
Theme music is Leave Now by We Are Wasted. Cover art done by Megan Winchester.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Show us some love on iTunes. Be a badass and do what you want. Until next time.